everyone, it's Andy here from Saving to Invest, and today I'm going to talk about how the IRS actually processes your tax return after you filed it and how to deal with some errors. So the IRS has published a good update on their operations page, and I thought I'd share and simplify how the IRS actually processes your returns for those who are waiting for their refund, don't know what's happening with the return, and wondering, hey, should I file a second return? So hopefully this video will help answer some of those questions, and I'll point you to the resources that can give you more details. As always, if you like what you see here, please hit the subscribe button and like the video. Thanks. I wanted to share these updates from the IRS operations page, which they published during the tax year. And you can go to the page on irs.gov. It's there. Just search for operations, and you'll see it. It's pretty easy, but it provides a lot of details on how they're processing it this year. You can read it, but I've tried to simplify and summarize it for you so you can see the key points that affect you. So first, understand that tax returns are opened and processed in the order they are received. So this means that those who filed early will be in the early batches, because IRS does process in cycles and batches, as I've discussed in some earlier videos. So when you that's why they encourage you to submit early. Of course, make sure you have all your documentation before you submit, but this is an important point. IRS the earlier you submit it, the faster it gets processed, theoretically, if there's no issues. The other one is as the return is processed electronically or on paper, it is delayed mainly because of mistakes, regarding credits, reconciliation of those credits, like the RRC, which was the stimulus check, so the child tax credit if you didn't put the right amount that you were paid last year. There's missing information, and of late, suspected identity theft or fraud. So these are the main reasons that returns are delayed. It's not always easy to see this because the IRS has to then manually verify things, and they don't always update it immediately after they're doing that verification. So this is why electronically submitting stuff is definitely recommended even by the IRS. But if it's delayed, this could be the reasons why, according to the IRS, from what they've seen over the last few years. Again, the WMR, the Where's My Refund, and IRS to Go refund checking app and transcript are updated along this process, but it may lag a few days. And I've talked about that in some previous videos as well. Just realize that, the information is provided. It just things take a while to process because of the old systems and the amount of things being processed. But keep looking at WMR to see, what's happening with your refund on a regular basis. It's updated daily, and you can see if there's any progress. The important thing here is if the IRS can fix the issue, they will do it without contacting you. So if it's a simple error, or they can reconcile that your employer paid you 10,000, you declared 9,990, they'll probably fix it manually. They'll just adjust it because the systems have logic to sort of look at error thresholds and what's truly fraud versus just a mistake. And this actually, I would say, is a pretty significant number of returns to get fixed automatically without the taxpayer having to do any additional input. If they do need more verification, which will delay the refund, they will send you a letter. Again, wait for an official IRS letter. Don't just wait for calls. There's a lot of scam artists out there right now trying to take your money. Wait for a formal letter from the IRS to, check what's the issue, right? Again, you may not always see it on WMR what the specific issue is. The letter will have a lot more details because, WMR has certain messages. So wait for the letter. It may be frustrating for not seeing it on your transcript or WMR, but the letter will give you a lot more details specific to your tax situation. And again, the resolution of these issues could take 90 to 120 days. It just depends on how quickly you respond. The IRS staffing during the peak of tax season, this will probably take much longer just because they're processing so many different things and dealing with other issues. But it generally can take several weeks, some months. And I know there are some people waiting from the previous year for their tax return to be resolved. The IRS has over 6 million returns to process still from the previous years. A lot of them have to be done manually, so it's just going to take some time. So what can you do if you're waiting for your tax return to be processed? Well, according to the IRS, there is no further action needed from you, and you can keep checking WMR and your IRS account, which contains your transcript, to see what's happening. Now, this will again update at most once a day, but it could take a few days before you see any new updates. There will be tax codes and other items, and I've talked about that in other videos, which I'll link to here, but essentially you just have to wait. Calling the IRS is not going to help, especially during tax season when things are so busy. It'll probably take you a long time to get through to someone, and until they can see what has been processed, they won't be able to be of much help to you, and they'll just tell you to call back when you see updates on your IRS account or WMR. If you have already filed electronically or via tax provider, a lot of people ask, can they do anything, or do I need to do it? Again, you don't have to do anything further action with your tax software provider, right? TurboTax or HR Block. If you've got an acknowledgement that your return has been submitted, and you'll see that on WR, which says, return accepted, you don't need to take any further action other than just make sure you respond to information. So if you get an IRS letter or WMR tells you to call someone, just follow that. Don't waste time. Pay attention, check it daily. There's not much you can do in calling, and it won't help. Of course, you can look online in forums like this or videos and see if anyone else is having the same issue, but you'll just need to wait specifically for the IRS to get back to you. If you filed on paper, things do take longer just because there is more manual verification and the IRS has to load it into their systems. Again, keep checking WMR. This tells you what's happening with the IRS, if they've received a return or are processing it or viewing it. So if you feel it's not been received, that's when you should be worried. But normally WMR will show that has been received and they're processing it or reviewing it. Again, this could take a few days to update since you mailed it in, just because it takes a while for paper returns to be loaded. Electronic returns normally get processed once you submit them within 24 hours, sometimes in just a few hours. But then the processing time could take a while. So that's where it's variable depending on what issues the IRS finds with your tax return. Again, for past year tax returns, and there is, like I said, close to up to 10 million, including amended returns that are still waiting to be processed manually by the IRS. Do not file a second tax return or contact the IRS about the status of your return. You won't get much help there. Just wait for them to finish processing and they'll notify you of next steps, whether you get a refund, whether you owe taxes, or whether additional information is needed. So the other question I get is around the processing of amended individual tax returns or 1040X form. So this is especially for folks from the previous year who filed a return and are waiting to see what's happening with that amended return, whether it was for fixing an issue that the IRS asked them or just because they realized they got a form later on in the year. There's still 2 million amended returns that the IRS is waiting to process from prior years. That's a lot, given that amended returns are normally a fraction of the total 160 million total returns submitted every year on average. So there's still a lot of backlog there. Because they're amended, there's a lot of verification that needs to be done. So the time frame used to be 16 weeks. Now it's gone up to 20 weeks. So this is something that's increased by another month. So a lot of people with amended returns, unfortunately, having to wait even longer for their refund. Again, like other things, just don't file a second tax return or contact the IRS if you're waiting for amended return. Unfortunately, this is a very manual process to deal with amended returns, just all systems again, and so it's taking weeks and months to process these, which is not great, but this is what the IRS has published. And then, as always, check the online page. There is a different tool. It's actually called Where's My Amended Return. It's not your regular Where's My Return, so just be careful of that. And I'll post a link here, but it's on the IRS website as well. It is a different status page just because it's different systems, different teams that process amended returns. So just be aware of that for your amended return as well. Talk about from the IRS update is just a suspension of many tax notification letters. So the IRS, generally based on certain system flags, sends out a lot of automated let notices for collection, or when a taxpayer owes additional tax or has no record of filing a tax return. So this has been done sort of to prevent, to reduce the load on the IRS, because people will then call about that letter or want to ask questions. But the issue is that a lot of people, this has affected some people adversely, is that they sometimes don't even know they owe taxes, or they don't even know if they have to file a tax return or if they have filed one. So this has created some challenges as well. And, you can read more about it on the IRS page. And this was done for the right intentions, but unfortunately it's created some confusion with taxpayers that normally rely on these letters to take action on their tax filings. Here are some of the letters that have been suspended. CPAT is sort of the one that sends about credits for a tax period, or they haven't returned. People have money, but they haven't submitted a tax return, so they're missing out on potentially money they could get. This is probably one that, I think is going to hurt some people who should file a tax return just to get like the child tax credit or the expanded earned income credit, but this letter doesn't go out. So unfortunately, this will, mean when they eventually do go out, it'll just mean they'll be able to claim this later on. You can see up here, there's also collection notices. So sometimes these notices tell people that, they have balances due, and if they don't get these letters, they theoretically are still liable for any delays in penalties and interests here. So there may be some relief for that, but a lot of these, I think are going to have some ramifications later on the tax season. But I would definitely say if you feel, you're having some challenges with the IRS in previous years, or you have delinquent loans, or you're not sure if you can get credits, check your IRS account. It's free to create on the irs.gov website. Check your transcript for any past history with the IRS for things you owe, or dates that you have to give things. So this will have the latest information. So don't always rely on getting a letter. Just go into the account, be proactive, and check it. But again, be careful. You don't want to just respond to random people who are not from the IRS around these things as well.